It was a filled weekend for St. Cloud State athletics with numerous programs in action. I'm Sam Goetzinger, and I'll fill you in on everything you need to know for this episode of Weekend Warmup. We'll start on the gridiron as the St. Cloud State football team was back in action this past weekend as they traveled up north to take on the Bemidji State Beavers. We'll kick it off in the second half with SCSU trailing by 24, but that would all change after Dwayne Lawhorn finds his tight end, Anthony Carver, and bounces off a couple of weak tackles and muscles his way into the end zone. But after the touchdown and the two-point conversion, SCSU would be trailing 24-8. Over in the fourth quarter now, Huskies get their second score of the game from quarterback Justin Check, and the Huskies' late score wouldn't be enough as they would fall to Bemidji by a final score of 38-14. With a four-game losing streak hanging over the Huskies' heads, they look to put that to rest up in frigid Duluth as they took on the Bulldogs for this weekend series. There was no score 13 minutes into the first period before Minnesota Duluth's Aniki Linzer nets one, giving the Bulldogs the early lead. In the second, it was all St. Cloud State as Taylor Lynn found the net from Abby Thiessen, tying things up less than 2 minutes later. Emma Bingham got in the action as well. Huskies led the 10th-ranked team of the country 2-1. Moving on to the last period, St. Cloud State struggled to finish as UMD would answer with 2 goals of their own and would take this game, game one, 3-2. With an exciting game one on hand, Saturday looked to be a prime time for the Huskies to strike back, but it would turn out to be quite the opposite. Just a little into game time, UMD's Kylie Hanley found the net to draw first blood for UMD. The Bulldogs wouldn't look back from there as they would score 5 more goals on the game. Pitching the shutout and taking the sweep, Huskies' losing streak extends to 6 with the 6-0 loss to the Bulldogs. The women's volleyball team played their most important match of the season versus Duluth on Halloween, and the game did not disappoint. The Huskies started off with 2 close set wins before Duluth's strong offense finally picked up a set for the Bulldogs. The Huskies stormed back in the fourth set as Lindsay Rachel completed a double-double, and Clara Krentz became the first Husky to reach 2,000 kills ever, and St. Cloud took down UMD 3-1. The Huskies kept up their high level of play as they would sweep the Bemidji State Beavers in northern Minnesota and improve to 11-4 in conference play. The SCSU women's soccer team snapped their 4-game winning streak last Sunday against SMSU and will look to get back to their winning ways Friday against Minot State. Claire Shea would get the Huskies on the board first at the 9-minute mark off the assist from Monica Majeski, and get used to those two names because the same duo would score again at the 18-minute mark to give the Huskies a 2-0 lead. That would be Shea's 6th goal of the year as well. The rest of the game would show no more scoring, and the Huskies would leave Minot victorious 2-0. As mentioned, Claire Shea would have 2 goals and Monica Majeski would have 2 assists. Zoe Welsh would have a pretty easy day as she saved the one and only shot that was attempted by Minot State. The ladies were back home on Sunday with their last regular season home game against UMary. It was a defensive battle from both teams as it would go into half tied. In the second half, the Huskies would get on the board in the 62nd minute with a beautiful cross from Nicole Fries that connects with Jenna Dominguez to give the Huskies the 1-goal lead. The defense would withstand a late push from the Marauders as the Huskies would win the game to leave the weekend with 6 points. Now over to the pool as the Huskies swim and dive team made their way over to the University of South Dakota for an inter-squad competition this weekend. Each team took home a win from Western Illinois University. The big highlights were Gavin Bloch and David Clossie, who placed in the top spots in the 1,000 and 1,650-meter freestyle events, while Maddie Brinkman and Alyssa Doherty took both first and second place in the 3-meter dive. The Huskies will be back on the road for a 2-day meet against the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Now taking a look at some upcoming events, men's and women's swim and dive travel to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire as we mentioned. Men's basketball opens up their season with road games against Ouachita Baptist University and Harding University, while the women's basketball team hosts Valley City State University in their home opener. Women's soccer takes on in-state rival Minnesota Duluth. Women's volleyball welcomes in Minnesota State and Concordia University on Friday and Saturday. And women's cross country heads to Joplin, Missouri for the NCAA Central Region Championship. We're not done there. The wrestling team is in Troy, New York for the Northeast Duels. Football takes on Minot State on Saturday. And finally, the men's hockey team hits the road for a 2-game series versus Northern Michigan. That's all we have for this week's edition of Weekend Warmup. For more information on Husky athletics, visit scsuhuskies.com. See you back here next week.